Okay, I'm back, and so now we want to summarize what we've been talking about today. So we've talked about sedimentary environments, we've talked about different kinds of sedimentary rocks, and then we've talked about different kinds of sedimentary features. So in this chart here, we divided up into environments. So you have the continental environment, you're going to have the marine environment, the ocean environment, and then you're going to find the environment where the two come together. So where the continent meets the ocean is going to be the shoreline, or the transitional environment. So what kind of continental environments could you have? You could have a desert, you could have a river. Okay, now what's an alluvial fan? So when you've got mountains and rivers in the mountains are carrying their load, they can carry the load because they're moving relatively fast. When they get to the bottom of the mountains and they empty out onto the plains, now all of a sudden they're not moving as fast. So they have to dump their load. And they're going to make these things that are going to be called alluvial fans, and we're going to see this in a future lesson. Okay, you could also have a lake or a swamp. You could have a hydrothermal environment, such as a geyser. You could have karst, so that's going to be caves. And then you could have glacial. Okay, so the second column shows you what kinds of sedimentary rocks would you find in each of those environments. And then the third column summarizes what kinds of sedimentary features would you find in each of those sedimentary environments. Then, as far as the shoreline's concerned, you could have a beach, you could have a delta, and a delta is very similar to the alluvial fan. So with the alluvial fan, you've got a river that's moving very fast, coming out of the mountains, but then it slows down and it drops its load on land. The difference is with the delta, you've got the river, it's emptying into the ocean and it's slowing down, so it's dropping its load and it's making the delta. Okay, then you could also have a lagoon where you're going to have a coastline here, water, so the ocean, and then offshore you're going to have some kind of a barrier reef, and then in between would be the lagoon. So it's still considered to be a transitional environment. Okay, then you've got the marine environment, in which you're going to have areas that are close to the shoreline, so that's going to be the shallow. Then you have a little bit deeper, so that's going to be intermediate. Then a little bit deeper, which is deeper. And then you're going to have the deepest. And so depending on how deep you are, you're going to have different kinds of environments. You cannot have limestone form in the deepest parts of the ocean. And that's because once these shells and stuff that are precipitating down, if they get to a certain depth, they will disintegrate. And so they don't make it to the bottom of the deepest oceans. However, you do have shale. So shale is composed of clay and mud-sized particles, which are very, very light, which means that they can be transported very far out into the ocean before they finally settle down. You can also have chert out there, because chert is made of silica and not calcium carbonate. And so whereas calcium carbonate will dissolve once you get to a certain depth and a certain pressure, the silica will not. So you can form chert even in the deepest parts of the ocean. Okay, so let's take a quiz. So let's take a break. When we come back, let's take a quiz over sedimentary rocks.